I'm Al Hunt.
And I'm John Heilemann. And all due respect to my beloved wife about this whole Ashley Madison thing, like a certain Louisiana Politico, I swear I was doing opposition research. Or she could divorce me. It's possible. You never know. Happy National Spumoni Day, sports fans. In our lineup tonight, Joe Biden versus Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton versus the media, and Ted Cruz versus the establishment. But first, Donald Trump versus everyone. The city of Mobile, Alabama will play host to the Donald this evening at Ladd Peebles Stadium in front of an expected crowd of 40,000 humans. Our own Josh Green has a preview up right now on BloombergPolitics.com. He reports that members of the Trump camp view Alabama and the other so-called SEC primary states as key to locking down the GOP nomination. It all comes as the political world asks who in the Republican field might try to take down Trump before then. Al, my question to you, for which of those candidates is it most important to do that, and what's the best way to go about it?
16 of them, John, all of them, because nobody can get any traction. There's no oxygen as long as Donald Trump dominates. So they all need for him to come down if they want to have any chance. Now, you know, Jim Gilmore, we probably shouldn't spend a lot of time talking about. Probably mostly affects Jeb Bush right now. How do you do it? That's very tough. They don't want to do it themselves because they've seen it backfire. What they really would love is to find some outside group to do it. And what do you do? What's it? That's tougher.
Look, I think, Al, I hate to be in the disagreement zone with you, but I think, you've got some candidates. Jeb Bush, I think, is somewhat elevated by this fight with Donald Trump. I think for a candidate like, say, Scott Walker, the imperative is really strong to try to do something about Donald Trump. Walker's got some money. His super PACs have some money. He has, I think, been affected as negatively by the Trump rise as anyone, as he's tried to run both as an establishment candidate and as a populist candidate. He has seen his fortunes fall. A lot of these other candidates could like to take down Trump, but they don't have the means to do it. Walker and his super PAC might, and I think they have a huge incentive to go after him and try to paint him as Bush is doing, try to paint him as a closet liberal, a closet Democrat.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure that's going to work, but I do think they have an incentive, but so does Bush, even though Mike Murphy swears we'll never do anything like that. Look, I sort of agree with the theory, which I'm told Karl Rove holds, which makes me uncomfortable, that it's kind of like a boxer who takes a lot of body blows in the fourth and fifth round. It ultimately wears him down. Trump is very effectively parlaying a sense of anger, anxiety. There's certainly a healthy dose of racism in what he's doing. I think ultimately it'll really falter, but I'm not sure how long ultimately is.
It concerns me to be in a situation where I'm disagreeing not just with you, but with Karl Rove, too. I must be wrong. All right, from one SEC primary contender to another, Ted Cruz stopped by the Des Moines Register's Iowa State Fair soapbox today. While making his pitch, Cruz summoned up the memory of the Gipper.
Washington despised Ronald Reagan. If you see a candidate who Washington embraces, run and hide. It came from the American people, and it turned this country around. We went from stagnation to booming economic growth. We went from our hostages in Iran to winning the Cold War and tearing the Berlin Wall to the ground. Why am I so optimistic? Because the same thing is happening today.
Al, you work for Bloomberg View, and you have a column up on Bloomberg View this week in which you argue that Ted Cruz is, quote, the most underestimated candidate in the field. Mr. Hunt, I ask you, make your case.
Mr. Heilemann, first, I knew Ronald Reagan. I covered Ronald Reagan, and Ted Cruz is not the Gipper. Let's just get that straight. But I do think he's underrated for a lot of reasons. First, he's ruthlessly tough and incredibly smart. He's got lots of money. He's got the right message. Every time he attacks Mitch McConnell, they hate it here in the Beltway. They love it out there in the country. He's got a plan, a strategy, the SEC primary that we referred to earlier on March 1. A whole lot of Southern delegates will be picked, and he spent a lot of time there. If any right-wing candidate can coalesce that movement, it'll be Ted Cruz. Not sure it'll happen, but he's got a shot.
Al, I feel like I should call you Morton, like Morton Kondracki. You're wrong on this topic.
No.
I think Ted Cruz gets at least as much love as he deserves. Right now, his strategy seems to be We're gonna cozy up to Trump. We're not gonna ever criticize him because when he crumbles, when he falls apart, we want to be there and inherit all of his votes. The problem with that strategy, Al, what if Trump doesn't crumble by the time you get to that SEC primary? All you are then, if you're Ted Cruz, is you're left standing there holding a big pot of money and with a lot fewer votes than you need to win any primary.
Actually, Jay Arthur, you're dead right about that. But it'll be curtains for the others too. If Trump doesn't falter, Ted Cruz and everybody else suffers.
Well, except for those establishment candidates, Al. That to me, it sets up a perfect race between either John Kasich or Jeb Bush, one-on-one with Donald Trump. I know that's what both Bush and Kasich are counting on. I think Ted Cruz may end up being roadkill. All right, it's been quite a week for Hillary Clinton, one in which her campaign worked overtime on rolling out what it called a, quote, relatively aggressive education process to combat negative coverage of the Clinton email controversy. First, the candidate herself held a widely panned press availability in Las Vegas on Tuesday. Then Communications Director Jennifer Palmieri appeared on this program to answer questions, a lot of questions, on Wednesday. And today, the folks in Brooklyn released a video in which National Press Secretary Brian Fallon fact-checked tweets about Benghazi.
One of the emails that the Inspector General has flagged as potentially containing classified information at the time it was sent is actually one that, if you look at it, is specifically marked unclassified. You can go to the State Department website to this day, look it up, and print it out because it remains unclassified. In fact, because the State Department treats this email as unclassified, it sent Trey Gowdy's committee a copy of the unredacted email. So by the same logic that the Inspector General is holding Hillary Clinton to, this means that potentially members of Congress that received this email from the State Department are trafficking in classified information. And anybody who goes to the State Department website and prints out a copy of the unredacted email is also trafficking in classified information.
A little sarcasm there, a little touche on behalf of Brian Fallon. Late this afternoon, Al, the Clinton campaign was back at it again with their aggressive strategy. They held a conference call on the email issue. So I ask you, taking all of this into account, how effective has their strategy been so far?
Well, I'm not sure what they said in the conference call. I wasn't on it, John, but on a scale 1 to 10, about a -2. Really, nothing has worked. I think Brian Fallon is a smart fellow, if Hillary Clinton is running against Trey Gowdy, she'll win. But that's not her test. And I think, again, this hasn't been explained very well.
I think that's exactly right, Al. I think there's still too many places where they do not have good answers or any answers to pertinent questions. And if you ask the question, are they in a better place right now with less establishment skepticism, with less press skepticism about their position today than they were at the beginning of the week? I think the answer is obvious. There's more skepticism, and the facts in terms of the investigations have gotten worse, not better.
Boy, we're on a roll of agreement, Jay Arthur. You're absolutely dead right on this one.
Oh, Reinhold, how much I love you. All right, coming up, Steve Schale, the Obama ally, now urging Joe Biden to run for president after the break. Our guest tonight is a stalwart of the Democratic Party who helped Barack Obama win Florida twice, and is now part of the movement to get Joe Biden into the 2016 race. Steve Schale, the latest and biggest figure to join the Draft Biden Super PAC. Thanks for coming on the show from Tallahassee. Steve, I got to ask you, you're a smart guy, you're a strategist, you're not a dreamer, you're not an idealist, and you joined this thing right now. Do you know something we don't know? Do you think the vice president is getting closer to actually getting into this race?
You know, I think I know as much as you guys do, so just sort of reading the tea leaves. It looks like he's definitely very serious about considering it. I don't have any inside knowledge. And, I think for me this really is just sort of a chasing rainbow sort of thing. I have a lot of affinity for the vice president. Frankly, after two presidentials in Florida, I was looking forward to spending most of 2016 hanging out on a beach and not in a campaign office. But when it became clear that the vice president was really serious about this, for me it was just a chance to raise my hand and grab an oar and be part of a movement to encourage him to do it.
And why do you think it's imperative for him to get in?
I don't know. I think he'll raise the game of everybody. I think he's, first of all, his record is unparalleled in the field. 40, 45 years of public service. He's obviously been involved in almost every major domestic and foreign policy issue. And I think, too, he's, coming at it with sort of a very adult attitude towards things. Again, I just think it's sort of the right time for a guy like Joe Biden to get in the race.
If I had asked you, as a Democratic strategist, if I'd asked you a year ago, I'm virtually certain you would have said that Hillary Clinton was going to waltz to the nomination. She was going to be basically coronated. She's had some problems. How much do you think, on a scale of 1 to 10 as a political professional, how much do you think the email controversy has hurt her politically with the Democratic Party and beyond?
Well, I'm going to say something that probably doesn't sound like on message for a guy that thinks that Joe Biden should run. I think that she's had a tough August. But if you look back at the history of presidential campaigns, including the guy I worked for, he's had a couple of bad Augusts as well. So, I think in the end, if she ends up being the nominee, I think Democrats will unify behind her. It'll end up being a race between her vision of the world and whoever the Republicans put up. And I feel pretty comfortable about that race. For me, this really isn't about that. This is about the fact that I think Joe Biden is a good man. I think he has the experience our country needs right now. And I generally just like the guy as a person. And for those purposes alone, I'm sort of happy to be part of this.
All right, Al Hunt, jump on in.
Steve, you're in a crowd of millions who likes Joe Biden personally, but what comparative advantages does he have over Hillary Clinton as a candidate?
Well, I think, first of all, if you look at the appeal of Donald Trump, part of the thing that I think has really helped Trump take off is he's sort of a straight talker. He's Mr. Authentic. Obviously, Joe Biden is that guy, very much as a brand. But unlike Donald Trump, Joe Biden brings a 45-year public service record. And he comes from a working class background. He's never really sort of lost that edge. He understands what working class families go through. And listen, I think that him being in the race it will be good for the Democratic Party. I know one of the things that concerns me, frankly, and this isn't.
I was going to say, Steve, you just compared him to Donald Trump. How about to Hillary Clinton? Does he identify more, in your view, with working class voters, and does he have more authenticity than Secretary Clinton?
Well, to me, again, this is my opinion. I think that Joe Biden is a guy that comes from a working class background. He in his entire career in the Senate, he was a stay-at-home dad, largely went home at night. I think he's never really lost those values. And so, yeah, I think, he's a guy that can talk to segments of the electorate that our party has struggled with over the years.
And how about money? There are a lot of people who think he'd have a great deal of difficulty raising money, which is at a premium in this expensive year.
Well, here's the thing, and you know this better than I do. These primary races are really all about momentum. Do I think that Joe Biden can raise enough money to put together a good, competent team and compete in the early states? Absolutely. And if Joe Biden competes in the early states and picks up a couple early wins, will he raise the money to compete in the later states? Absolutely. So, yeah, I think it's one of those where, is he going to be able to build a behemoth operation like the Clintons have in a matter of 4 months? No, but that's not the goal. And frankly, our goal at this point is we've got a couple 100,000 people that have reached out to us, who've signed up on the email list, and we're going to start talking to volunteers in places like Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina about things that they can do to prepare for Joe Biden getting in the race, assuming he does.
Steve, if Joe Biden gets in this race, do you think he takes votes away from Hillary Clinton? He splits the anti-establishment vote and then maybe helps Bernie Sanders? Or do you think he takes votes away from Sanders from the anti-Clinton vote? Where does he get most of his votes from?
I think it'll be interesting. I think he probably pulls a little bit from all the candidates. And again, these races, at this point we're seeing him, polling at 10-12% in the early states, but he's also not a candidate. But again, I think he has the ability to talk, particularly to working class families in a way that we haven't really seen from a serious contender in a while. And I think he'll do well in places like Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina.
You're a Florida guy. Is there some scenario by which you could imagine Joe Biden beating Hillary Clinton in Florida?
Listen, I'm a realist. Hillary Clinton has spent 30 years in Florida with President Clinton, building a really strong network. Most of my good friends are in Clinton world down here. I think she would definitely be the favorite. That being said, Joe Biden has spent a lot of time in Florida, and it'd be fun if the race gets that far.
Let me ask you real quick at the end here. If you had Joe Biden on the phone right now, I think he's a smart man. And I think one of his fears, he wants to be president. I think probably in his heart would like to run, but he worries that she would be still, even in her somewhat hobbled state, she would steamroller over him. What would you say to Joe Biden to convince him in 20 seconds that he should do this?
If you're going to wake up the day after the qualifying deadline in New Hampshire and Iowa regretting that you didn't run, you should run for president.
That's good. That's a strong, short, brief, concise, compelling point. Steve Schale, really grateful for you to come on the air with us. Thank you for doing this. When we come back, talking Trump with Alex Castellanos after the break.
Government's broken, the system's broken, nobody listens to me. What do you do? Well, the Democratic answer is let's fix big government, let's get some new programs and have issues and solutions like that. I think our answer is somebody's got to invent government in a garage again, like you did the Apple computer, on a local level, where make government work where people live.
Man, you gotta love vintage C-SPAN. That handsome devil speaking there was our next guest, Republican mega strategist Alex Castellanos, way back in 1991. Right after the first Republican debate, Castellanos was a pretty strong skeptic of Donald Trump, said he was kind of destined to fall. Lately, he's changed his tune. After the town hall meeting up in New Hampshire this week, he said Trump might be the best political communicator he's seen since Ronald Reagan, and now he's calling him a threat to the party that must be stopped. So I asked him today about his change of heart.
Just like Humphrey Bogart said in Casablanca, I was misinformed. He's grown. He started off as the anti-Washington candidate, the angry man's candidate. Now he's becoming not just an anti-them vote, but a pro-him. He's becoming the Make America Great Again candidate, and that gives him room for growth.
Right. He is doing this event in Alabama tonight. They say 30, 40,000 people might come. A lot of people dismiss crowd size. If that number of people show up for him, should we look at that and say that is a serious thing?
That is a serious thing, but also there's a little bit of Halley's Comet going by here. It only comes by every 76 years. People know this is a rare phenomenon, and it may not last. Let's go see Elvis while he's here. So I think there is some of that. But anybody who discounts Donald Trump, that he's going to be around through the convention now, I think is making a mistake.
So there's a lot of discussion in the political world right now about who might try to take Trump down, how they might try to do it, and start advertising against him. He's talking about it himself. Al and I talked about it earlier on the program. In your view, as a former strategist, who would be for whom is it most important, most imperative to try to take Trump down a peg, if not out of the race completely?
Well, you got two angles to look at that. One is he's sitting on a bunch of people on the conservative side. He's sitting on Ted Cruz. I doubt Ben Carson's going to do anything about that, but at some point Ted Cruz is going to wake up and figure this race is going to end and I'm never going to catch up. Right. Then on the other side, on the establishment side, you can wait a little longer. Whether it's a Carly Fiorina or a Jeb Bush or a Marco Rubio, don't stand in front of the tsunami right now and just coalesce. So become a better, stronger candidate so that you can be in the lead when everyone turns not to Trump but to the anti-Trump.
All right. So what's the best way, if you're thinking about how to do it, if it was your job to try to take Trump down a peg, what would be, you think, the best angle on trying to get that?
The best thing to do is the way Brutus killed Caesar. Get real close, snuggle up, and shiv him in the ribs. Right. In other words, hug the message, but not the messenger. We understand your frustration, America. We know why you hate Washington. Your country's on the verge of decline. It's going over a cliff, and nobody's doing anything about it. We get it. Donald Trump and I agree on that. But let me tell you what I think now we're going to do. Take his energy, take his heat, and use it to fuel your engine. Right. Turn his heat into your action, and be there, you hope, when voters actually get serious about this and say, you know what, I agree with him, but he's not a president.
So yesterday, Jeb Bush, for the first time, really decided he was going to go after Trump in a full-throated way, and did it. Some people called it a tirade. Other people thought it was really good. What did you think of the way that Bush decided to take him on, basically saying Trump's a closet Democrat, I'm a real conservative?
I think that's the right way to take Trump on. I think that's because Trump really isn't a Republican. He's Trump. He's a unicorn. He's like something we've never seen. He is running as a Republican, but he is very comfortable with more power for Donald Trump in the business world and in politics. So I think that's where he's vulnerable. Look, when you're a business guy and you blow a deal, okay, maybe Donald Trump doesn't get the Doral Country Club or something like that. But when you're a politician, when you're running for president and you blow a deal, your relationship with the Soviet Union, well, that may be World War III. So I think at the end of the day, it's going to be hard for the Republican Party to marry Trump, be the alternative. And but be strong. And Jeb Bush actually, you know, these things, as you know, they're alpha dog contests. They're the gladiators in the Coliseum. Who's strong enough to rescue this country right now? Jeb demonstrated strength. It's still kind of pale compared to what Trump is doing.
Right. I'll ask you about Jeb just because I know he's a friend of yours and someone you've had a long history with.
Great guy.
You're not backing anybody in this race, and you're not backing Jeb. But how do you think?
We love all Republicans.
How do you think he's doing on balance?
The good news, I think, is that campaigns don't pick candidates as much as they make candidates, and I think Jeb has shaken off some of the rust. You know, he grew when he stood his ground there against the press. Whacking the press is always good for a Republican. And I think he's getting better at it. But right now, you know, the internet, campaigns have changed since Jeb last ran. I know we were talking that in today's world, it's a communications campaign, right? We share stuff all the time. Well, stuff's got to be big and important for us to demand all our attention. You can't be an old school candidate. You have to be big, bright colors, or else media won't work for you in today's world. That's something that's changed since Jeb ran for office.
Yeah, I think part of the thing that's happened is in some ways Barack Obama has changed our conception of the presidency. Yep. He is glamorous. He is a celebrity. He is ubiquitous. In a weird way, Obama has, in some weird way, paved the way for Trump.
Yeah, and what is big enough that we can all share on this, that's going to command our constant attention? I mean, we're talking to each other all the time. If it doesn't have some bigness and substance, we're not going to do that. That's been a big change since Jeb last ran.
All right, Alex, thank you. Alex Castellanos, thank you again for stopping by. We'll be right back to find out how it's hanging with these nuts. Time for your daily D's. My boy, D's Nuts, is getting huge. He's picked up 2 key endorsements from the Rent is Too Damn High, Parties, Jimmy McMillan, and Warren G. Since his rise in the poll, D's Nuts has apparently started a revolution, and now more than 60 people have registered bogus presidential campaigns on Thursday. Also, the polling firm PPP is going to include D's Nuts in its national poll. On Monday, former U.S. Attorney General Michael Mukasey is with us. We're going to talk to him about whether Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server violated the law. Until then, from me and my friend Albert Reinhold Hunt Jr., have a good weekend and sayonara.